doing? Why are they doing what they're doing? And so as you'll see when we walk through the task as we have it set up now, it's really just to get them interacting and create some curiosity on the subject's part as to what the other person's doing, or why the environment's doing what it's doing, or why my avatar is doing what it's doing. You know, so some of the avatar actions are controlled, but some of them, basically the avatar will take over. And so we're trying to, you know, have them focus on the different elements, and then again, through the actual research, we'll do a reflective part. We probably won't get into that today, but we'll ask the subject as we replay it what they're thinking. So that's a little bit of background, and again, part of this process is to actually see the development of a research project, you know, and some of the challenges we're going through. And she can talk about that. I'm just going to talk about the research on Thursday, but you know, inside of our time frame here. But this also gives you an opportunity to have input in the process of, you know, improving the research study, because we're probably about 3/4 of the way through development. We want to start running these in a couple of weeks. And one of the things you'll find with creating a research project, if you haven't already, is that there'll always be things that are not going to go as planned. So this is one of the first sessions where we're actually kind of running through it. So you'll see a lot of burps. Don't be surprised. Anything else? Have I said too much?
No, actually, what I would say is that you're running through it as participants, but as experts at the same time.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't, as a participant, you wouldn't get this background information.
Yeah. We just have a consent form that we'd ask them to sign, and we're not using your data.
Let me share with you the documents.
We don't feel like we have to. This is a class activity.
I
it's
printed
not a
out
research
the
project right now.
protocol so that you guys have it. You're gonna have to share. I'm sorry. And then I have a copy of the informed consent. I would, the thing that I'm gonna do for you as on-campus students, I'd rather have you give me input of these than any other thing. So I'm gonna make that your assignment for this module, if that's okay with you. Anybody? Anything?
Now, normally, one of the, oh, go ahead. One of the problems with the UX lab is it's very tight. So, as you can see, we put this divider in here. I didn't, but somebody did, so that the operator can be in the room, but it can be a little off screen, so to speak. But the way this works is that station controls this station, and then the user has to the subject has to kind of be led through the process by the lab assistant. But in this case, we have to actually have two lab assistants. We have to have one who's controlling the eye tracker and sort of running the session. But then we're going to have the second subject actually be in an office in the other room, or possibly just out in the hallway. Decide yet. We might want them in earshot. But in any event, the point being that we're going to have them pretend like they're another user, but you know, they're going to have their own script they're going to go through to interact with the subject. And as you'll see, part of what we want to do is kind of create some conflict and some cooperation in different parts of this.
You have a copy of that? Okay, I'm handing out all the documents that we would go through in the whole procedure, in the whole protocol, so that you guys can critique them and give us feedback. So the order of things is gonna be, first, you're gonna get the participant in and you're gonna introduce the study. You guys share because I don't have enough time. Then the participant would go through the consent form and sign it. Then we would have them do the pretest, which is a survey, and I have handed out a copy of the draft to put it somehow. Then they would go through a training session, which is a video, and we're going to show them that today. Then they will go through the actual eye tracking session, which is the completion of the tasks. Then they would, we did agree last time, is it going to be survey first and then walk through, or walk through and survey?
You mean training?
After they complete the tasks.
I think we decided to go ahead and do the survey because it was going to take a little time to get the video.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do
compiled
the
and all
completion
that.
of the tasks in Second Life, and then they're gonna do the survey, and then we're gonna have them tell us what happened while they were at the environment, while showing them the video of their eye tracking.
And this is not ideal. We talked about this. We prefer to have them, we're doing a reflective talk aloud. And the problem is anchoring. We don't want to anchor them. We're more interested in the talk aloud than we are in the surveys. We're not really doing a classic survey study where we're gonna like look at different, I mean, there's no manipulation here. It's just kind of what was your experience in the environment. So those are almost controls. What we really are interested in is the talk aloud. And one of the things you have to think about when designing a research study is, are you contaminating some aspect of your results by doing things in the wrong order? So for example, if we give them a survey and they fill it out, it may either change how they think about something, or it may cause them, because they responded a certain way, to lock in on that response. But the way the eye tracking stuff works, we're recording it and we're going to play it back, and it takes a little while to compile. And so you have to think about, you know, what are you going to do with the subject in the interim? And we have to think about that. I mean, that's something we'd appreciate comments on. Maybe there'd be some other little task we could have them do. Or we could tell them, hey, in a minute we're going to have you reflect on this. Could you think about what just happened, you know, and think about each of the experiences, or something like that. So, but again, that's something we want to do with them. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
It's your class. I talk too much.
I'm done. I explained the protocol. Do you guys have
So-
any questions?
Yeah, good point.
Colin.
Question?
I might have questions after the.
At the end?
Oh, let's see the guy that asked all the questions.
He's normally not that forthcoming.
Okay.
Yeah, you're the user. You'll have questions.
So he's gonna be our participant today.
Okay, that's good to know. Yep. Okay, so I'm gonna read this for you so that you get familiar with what we're gonna do in this session. During this session, we will ask you to use a virtual world, Second Life, to interact with another participant who is a lab assistant. Second Life is an environment that is a lot like a video game, where you use an avatar to manipulate objects, move around, and carry out conversation with other people. During this session, we will ask you to do the following. Listen to an instructional video, and actually watch it at the same time, that we will show you how to use Second Life, use the Second Life environment to communicate with the other user, and to instruct him to perform various tasks. Observe the actions of the other participants and things that happen in the environment. Take instructions from the other participant on how to perform various tasks. Also accept items when given to you. Work together to rearrange objects in the Second Life environment. Also, as described in the informed, you have to translate it, or do you want some time to read this? And actually, Julie, I need to give him this before I do this one.
Mm-hmm.
So he need to read it and then sign it, and then I can read to him the instruction.
Okay. I thought it was the other way around. I've done it
We
the other
cannot
way
do
around.
that, can we?
What's that?
Introduction first and then
Introduction before
consent
the
form.
consent form?
Well, you have to sort of read, yeah. I
And I
think it's
read?
okay to read the introduction. You're not asking for any data,
Okay, so just like the first one.
because they have to, yeah, I don't think that's a problem.
If you want to take all the work on that
I want to see this.
Check out how they do it. I just don't know if they're impatient. I don't know if you.
Do you have
Oh,
a
so it's
pen
ready to
that I
play.
can- I need to
Oh,
sign
there's
it.
no need to sign it, because you know, we're not gonna.
We're not really collecting data.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'll pretend that I signed it.
Yep, so, finish this now. So also as described in the informed consent document, while the session is taking place, we will be using an eye tracking system to record where your eyes are focused during your use of the software. Following the session, we will ask you to review the session recording and express what you were thinking and doing at each stage of the process. In the Second Life environment, we have set up several stations that offer instructions. These instructions will be presented on signs located at each station. In general, your task will be to read the instruction to the other participant and respond to any instruction provided by that individual.
You
So
said-
No, it should be, it should be said, we're not collecting data, but we will be using the eye tracker, and it will be probably recording conflicts by it.
Right.
We'll delete it, of course.
It's fine.
Have you used Second Life before?
No.
Good.
It'll probably be a typical
Please
subject.
have a seat here. Another thing that should be good to mention, one of the disadvantages of using the eye tracker, that you cannot move freely. So probably need to minimum your movement.
Yeah.
Yeah, stay focused kind of.
So, before we go too far, why don't we just take this out? Normally, we would have this here, but
Yeah, take it out.
there's no reason to have it here
Second
today.
you're caught on the.
Okay, okay.
Thank you. Eye tracker, and at the moment I cannot see your eyes. So actually there's no free to move in this on the screen.
And this is a challenge we always have with equipment like this, is you have to calibrate it. And occasionally, this is a fairly sophisticated eye tracker, but occasionally it won't track people's eyes. So, it's very rare, but it's just, and you'd think it would be glasses and stuff like that that would throw it off, but it's not. It's just, like Ahmed, we can't see his eyes for some reason.
Is it eyelashes? I have no idea. No idea.
I'm not an eye tracking expert.
Ahmed has long eyelashes.
Mhm, he does.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So if you have, he doesn't have this, but if you had a unibrow, it'd be the ultimate. Oh, there's no two eyes there. There's a horizontal line.
Usually it doesn't really record that well, right?
Yeah, and this illustrates one of the issues when you're doing a research design, that you always have to think about things from the subject's perspective. You know, we're using undergraduate students who don't really want to be here. They're just doing this for research credit. You want to optimize the use of their time. So, as we said, this is sort of in development, and we haven't got the protocol down perfectly. But when you are actually collecting data, you have to have everything so that all you're going to do is push a button. The subject sits down, you read the script, they sign the form, and you say, okay, now we're going to begin. And you just push the button. We've been here an hour setting up, but still, things aren't perfect. And the eye tracker is a big part of that.
That's why you run pilot sessions for, or run-throughs
Yes.
to iron out whatever, glitches you have, and you're still gonna find glitches.
Yeah. We've run studies, and actually, these were surveys, but it was sort of funny. We were doing a study of meat products, steaks, basically. And we were showing people pictures of cows, and we used the default setting in the software for the questionnaire, and it said, it was usually used for other marketing tips, and it said, how much do you desire this cow?
Dots on the screen. You just need to
The way it was
follow
phrased,
that.
it was kind of weird, like,
Exactly, you ask for it.
you know, so one of the subjects said, is this what you really meant to say? So obviously we had to throw all that data out and kind of redo it, rephrase it, and go through the survey quite right.
Yeah, you have to be really careful how you verbalize your questions, because you might taint them, you might have a biased, implicit bias when you're, putting together your questions. You're
Right
loading
now, I'm
words.
collaborating his eyes, so this is basically he's following the.
Yeah, there's just isn't, while he's doing that, there's a great example that one of my students, you can go ahead. One of my students is doing a survey development activity. And the concept was simultaneous that he was trying to get across. And for 2 of the 3 questions, he used the word at the same time, which means the same thing as simultaneous. And for the 3rd one, he used simultaneous. What happened is he couldn't get, in testing the survey results, he couldn't get the items to converge. Because you go through statistical techniques to look at and make sure that they hold together well. And he asked some of the subjects later, after we had to do the survey, these were undergrad students, about the one question, and they said, well, I'm not sure what simultaneous means. Which is odd, but it's a sort of a fundamental word that I would take for granted that everybody would know.
But you
But
can't
You
assume.
can't assume that. Because because I'm 50-something, have a vocabulary that's probably much broader than, with a PhD, than,
And you're a first language speaker.
and I'm a first language speaker, and
Native.
it could have been a lot of, people that were from other language groups that, didn't know it.
So you really need to be consistent
Mhm.
with the vocabulary.
You have to be consistent, you have to make sure you're
Clear.
writing in a language that your
Easy to be understood.
subjects understand. It's really hard. That's one of the biggest challenges in surveys.
Yeah, because you can think from the other language speakers' perspective, like
Yes.
if they can understand.
Yeah, for example, we have an increasing number of students from Asia, and so, their English is going to be different, and, in some ways it may be better, and in other ways, but if we use jargon, that or
Yeah.
idioms and that type of thing, people won't know what we're talking about. Okay, we're doing a training video.
You don't need to record this, Ryan, because I'll just post the video.
I want to be careful as I go through the video to make sure I'm not saying, like, oh, this is a good feature, or, this is helpful, and things like that, because we typically want to see what the reaction to it is based on just their use rather than what I tell them.
Proceed.
Oh, I'll be fine here.
Because you can just stop it.
Yeah, but I can, I'm not going to be doing that much.
Are you sure?
Oh, it just logged me off. Yeah, so I'll need to tell them to, set up and orient this position like just as it's shown there. And my avatar logged out because Second Life will log you out if you're not in there for a certain, or not doing something for a certain amount of time. And since I was busy jabbering.
Let's wait until you show up.
So normally we'd have the lab assistant kind of waiting in the wings and keeping the avatar there and what have you. And so the minute the video ends, the person would be logged into Second Life.